I'm Realtor Deb Tomorrow, and this is At Home in Bloomington, brought to you by Karen Rassel, Ruoff Home Mortgage. We profile the people, places, and resources that make Bloomington, Bloomington, and help you live your best life. At Home in Bloomington. Hello, and welcome to At Home in Bloomington. I'm your host, Realtor Deb Tomorrow, and I am joined, as always, by the lovely Miss Karen Rassel, best damn lender in the state of Indiana.
Hello.
How are you today?
I am fantastic today.
Excellent. So I wanted to ask you a question. If you ever had a conversation with a borrower about, have they ever asked you about I'm concerned about living in a condo, like a homeowner association?
I have.
And what do you tell them?
Well,
this is the longest circular intro. You're looking at me like, how are we going to get to our guest here? Oh, trust me, we'll get there.
No, usually if someone has they're like, I don't understand what that is or what they do, and I'm just like, just follow the rules of wherever you're living, and you pay your dues and maybe insurance if that's the part, and then kind of, keep your nose to the ground.
Well, one of the things I always tell people is that it's like, you may remember this from our most popular Real Estate Today podcast ever, which was the condo episode that we did. Why that was so popular, I have no idea, but I had fan mail from all over the country about that one. And we talked about how when you live in a condo, it's like going into business with your neighbors, which can be a little bit of a scary thought.
Yes.
But that's really what you're doing. You're sharing finances and business plans and that sort of thing. And so to that end, I always tell my clients who are moving into either a home or a condo who or have a homeowner association, the best way to protect your values and protect your interests is to get involved.
I would second that, but I would also not. I don't do that myself.
You don't want to get involved, right? No, I know. No,
my own HOA.
Right. I lived in a condo once up in India, and I did not get involved, but it was fine. I wasn't there that long. Now I live out in the country, so it's a little bit different story. But I tell people, get involved. This is the best way to protect what is important to you, to be involved in making those decisions. And that can be a scary thing because sometimes you don't share the same values as the people in your neighborhood or your next door neighbor or whatever. Yeah, it's a good practice. And so we're going to kind of talk about that today on a different level about being involved in whatever community you choose to live in, because you do have a choice where you live. If you want input and you want to have a voice, you have to do what? You have to vote and you have to get involved, right? I mean, we always hear people say, if you don't vote, you can't complain.
Right.
I'm a big believer in that. So that's what we're going to learn today.
Okay.
Any idea how?
No,
because you know our guest from
the Uke Tones.
Right. She's a musician.
Yes.
I guess musician by night?
Yes.
Yes, musician by night, but during the day.
Sometimes by day.
There you go. Whenever you've got a free moment,
whenever
right?
we fit it in. The other two jobs that I have.
So we welcome Susan Sandberg, who is Bloomington City Council member, as well as you work for IU as well.
I work for IU at the O'Neill School for Public and Environmental Affairs as a career advisor. So that is kind of my day job. And then, of course, the city council work, you fit that in every hour in between and beyond. And, of course, Wednesday nights are our big night for meetings. And
I was going to, there's a segment that we do at the beginning of beginning of the second half of the show where we throw back to a past podcast and encourage people to listen. And two episodes ago, our throwback was to cats. So, and then today I thought, should be our throwback to cats because Cats is a great channel that records all of your meetings, and you probably know all those people over there really well. So, so I'm not going to throw back to them formally, but informally, if you want to know more information about what we're talking about today, because what I really want to focus on is how do we get involved in the community and local government. So talk to us a little bit about your background and how you got involved in local government.
Right. My background is kind of interesting. I was actually invited to think about running for city council. It's not like I woke up one morning and said, this is my passion and my dream and I'm going to do this. But I was known to be somewhat of an activist. I had worked in the nonprofit sector and was known for my leadership skills and being rather outspoken. And so when there was an open seat in my district, I was invited to see if I wanted to throw my hat in the ring and run for that. Somebody just saw something in me and thought I might be good. And so I did, but I was a rookie. I was not particularly engaged in the community with respect to politics. So it was a little bit of a learning curve, but I dived in with both feet. I welcomed the challenge. I ran in my own district and did not win. I was going up against a very popular two-term incumbent. But I put a lot of legwork in. I took it very seriously. And as a result of that, when I had an opportunity to be appointed by caucus, I got in when Chris Gall was elected prosecutor, and he left an open seat on the city council.
So you ran before that.
I ran
and that
before
was 2007 when you took.
That was 2003, 2004 when I ran the first time.
Gotcha.
But then in 2007, I got appointed by caucus to fill a vacant seat.
Okay.
And so that's why I am now an at-large representative, because that was the seat that was vacated. And from that point on, I learned, I listened, I had a learning curve, and it suits me to be a representative and to serve the city as a whole at large, as opposed to being a district representative.
Okay. And so, but you do have to run is it a 4-year term?
Every 4 years.
Okay.
And of course, I'm in that, some might call it fortunate, some might call it unfortunate category, where our election was in the primary.
Oh, okay.
So because there was no one who ran to oppose us, I will not be on the ballot in the November, but I do have 4 more years ahead of me.
Okay.
Just by virtue of how the election worked out this year.
Okay.
So, I have been on the council since 2007. I've loved it. It's been challenging. It's been hard. It's been rewarding. And, of course, the best part for me is the public engagement and the trying to represent to the best of my ability, because I am at large, everybody to the best of my ability, and that's very difficult, as you were mentioning.
So many different values.
We don't all agree on too much of anything, and so you've got this side, and you've got this side, and then as a legislator, as the council that is the fiscal oversight body, and as well as the legislative body, we've got to do the best we can to steer the ship down the middle aisle, if you will, to make sure that we are accommodating everybody, but yet we can't do things exactly the way one side or the other wants us to do it.
Right.
It's hard.
And sometimes the compromise in the middle doesn't make anyone happy. That makes it even harder.
Sometimes they say that's when you've made everybody mad, you know you're on to something.
Right, exactly. So we're going to talk, I don't want people to listen to this and think, we're going to tell you how to run for office, because that's not really the gist of this. There are plenty of opportunities and needs for the community. So that's really what we're going to get at. But I want to talk just a little bit more about local government, because it's, my government class is many, many years removed. And I'm also learning, I guess, I grew up in Indianapolis, so big city, and, you just kind of, there was a mayor. You never really, like here, you see the mayor out and about. You didn't really, it's different. And I've learned over the years that different municipalities and cities are set up differently. Mm-hmm. So how does the city council work in conjunction with the mayor's office?
Well, you're familiar with checks and balances.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a very valuable commodity in any kind of government, whether it's city, state, national. The mayor obviously is the executive. He's the administrator. He and his staff and the individuals that he chooses to be his department heads, they set the tone and pretty much set the agenda. Every mayor is different. Now, I've worked under 2 now. I first began my tenure with Mayor Krizan and now Mayor Hamilton, and everybody's different in their leadership style and what they value and where their priorities lie. And so the mayor is a leader, but the council obviously has to deliberate and decide about what's best. And of course, if you're a district rep, you are representing the people who are directly around you in your area. So we have to bring different perspectives to the table when it comes to the votes. And we do vote on legislation. We vote on resolutions, non-binding resolutions. We deal with the fiscal appropriations. Budget is probably one of the biggest tasks we have every year. And those decisions are not made lightly or easily. And ideally, you want to work in tandem and in cooperation with your mayor. Sometimes we agree with him and his administration. Sometimes there are some major divergences of opinions. And so I'm one of 9 on the city council. And as such, I realize that I have one vote. I do have the ability to, through my arguments and through my good service and, serving with integrity and being as good as my word and all that, I'd like to think I have a little bit of persuasion sometimes in getting things accomplished that I think are what needs to happen. But when I'm in the minority and what I think is best doesn't win, you move on. You accept it, and okay, didn't win that one, and then you move on to do the next big task. Right now, the big task is the Unified Development Ordinance. We'll be dealing with that tonight and tomorrow night, and that's not been an easy struggle.
Yeah, the UDO is actually something very big in my world because it's zoning and what you can put where, and multifamily housing and affordable housing, which is a huge issue in Monroe County.
Workforce housing and housing in general. I mean, there is such, people are really struggling with finding the right location and the right kind of price point. And we need to get going on our housing stuff.
Yeah, so I know that they're asking for a lot of input from the community on that. As well. So I guess I'm still trying to figure out, do your projects come from the mayor's office and then you approve them, or do you send stuff to the mayor's office to approve, or back and forth?
It's a combination. Okay. I mean, the majority of things are kind of maintenance issues. So some things you just have to deal with by law, by Indiana statute, and when you're doing interlocal agreements and certain funding mechanisms are just automatic. But the mayor can certainly propose things and bring them forward, and individual council members too can have projects that they feel very strongly about, and they can work with our council staff and draft legislation that then gets brought forward. So it's a combination.
Okay, interesting. And then I do want to point out, and I know this is the obvious, but again, growing up in Indianapolis, the idea of being outside the city limits was foreign to me because it was a big city and we all lived in the city limits. But here, I don't live in the Bloomington city limits. I own property within Bloomington city limits, but even I live in the county. So I'm more represented by the county council. Right. Do you have any interaction with the county council?
I would like to think that we could do a better job of city-county collaborations. There have been some kind of touch points, if you will, that have been a little bit fragile with respect, for instance, to the convention center and the expansion of the convention center. That is a Monroe County property, but of course it sits right in the middle of the city's downtown, and as such, we have some standards for what we like to see develop there and where we like to see things develop. And so there have been some back and forth problems with that kind of city-county cooperation that I think is really critical, because we do live in the same region. We are a regional career hub. There are a lot of people who come from different counties who come here to Bloomington to live, and as such, Bloomington's got a heavy lift in maintaining infrastructure, the roads and the amenities that we provide in order to encourage economic development, encourage housing growth, all of it. And having the county's understanding and cooperation obviously is ideal whenever that's possible. Yeah.
I feel like I'm hoping that we're going to see more of that. I've been involved with some things over in Owen County, and some there's some Lilly grants that are coming around with the ROI projects.
Love ROI. Yeah. And that's where it's at, because that's 11 counties in this region that we're all, it's like, and I believe that, we all do better when we all do better.
Yeah. Exactly.
And, we don't want Bloomington to just be the hub where everybody comes for services. Like to see growth and development in all the counties that surround us for jobs. Right. Opportunities.
And certainly I know that, in Monroe County, there's concerns about growth because of infrastructure being able to handle that. But perhaps there's, maybe Owen County can handle some more housing growth, and that's still a very convenient drive. And all of a sudden there's synergies, and, people are helping Owen County prosper while still helping Monroe County prosper. And, I think that that's really, really important. So
I do too. And then, of course, you've got the struggle with people saying, but we don't want people in their cars. We want to reduce car trips. And so we want to keep everything in the urbanized core and walkable and bikeable and all that. But I tend to agree more with you. As a matter of fact, I was talking to Rachel walking up the stairs that my friend Jamie Sweeney, who used to have the Wandering Turtle in the square, now has this beautiful Galley Juniper in Owen County. And I'm looking at Owen County, and they're doing some pretty interesting things with respect to economic development and kind of maybe looking more and more like an attractive place for people to want to live. And it's close enough to Bloomington. If you like what Bloomington has to offer, you can commute here.
Yeah. So. We'll just build a light rail system. It'll be fine.
There you go.
Problem solved.
Solve problems.
See, no problem. Exactly. So how do you think Bloomington does in terms of community involvement in local government?
Well, first of all, Bloomington has no lack of people willing to stand up and be counted. And you see that in our meetings, especially when things get controversial. And very well educated and intelligent and dedicated and committed people coming forward. So from my perspective, it's always great to hear people when they come forward, whether they're coming from the real estate world, whether they're coming from, core neighborhoods, whether they're coming from all different kinds of places, and inform us about what it's like for them, where they live, what some of their struggles are. So I always appreciate those passionate, active people who come forward. What I also keep in mind, and this is because of my background in social work, not everybody has the wherewithal to come and speak to us. If you're dealing with poverty, you are struggling as a young parent, and you can't get daycare, and you're just busy, and you don't necessarily have the time to come to city council meetings and address us. So when I hear from the public, I'm always aware of who's not here. Who am I, as an at-large representative, who am I supposed to represent who just, for whatever reason, cannot be here to let me know what it's like to be them? And I think we have an obligation to reach out to them. Yeah. And so again, given my social work background, knowing some of the really great nonprofits in our community that do work with the poor, that work with those who are struggling with healthcare issues, that are struggling with not finding jobs that can support them and their families, I want to make sure that we're reaching out to them too and hearing what their individual struggles are. Because again, if you're only hearing from your activists, you're only getting
one side of the
story.
Sure.
So,
and there's not two sides of the story. There's probably
multiple.
60,000. Is that about right?
Yeah. As we will hear tonight. Yeah. As we discuss Chapter 3 of the UDO.
Exactly. So if someone is wants to be heard, how can they reach out to you and share their thoughts?
Well, again, this is a very, socially wired world, right? There are emails, there are, I still have a phone. When we're out and about, I mean, again, this is a small town. Bloomington's a second-class city. When I'm out at Kroger's, it's not uncommon for me to be approached by people. My ice cream melts sometimes. Right? I'm out in the parking lot before I can get it home.
No, I tell the realtors up in Indianapolis, they always show these big events. Like we have to do a hayride in the fall, so we can reconnect with clients. I'm like, I just go to Kroger. Mostly on the west side seems to be where most of my clients are, and and that's where I see them. And
again, when you're in a small community, you see people all the time, and if you're approachable, they'll approach you. And I am approachable. My personal cell phone is on the city's website. People can call me. Our email is very readily available, and people do email us with kind of long explanation. Here's my issue. Here's what I'd like for you to do about it. So there is that. And then, of course, we are very good with public comment in our meetings. Everything that we vote on has a public comment period. We even have extra public comment periods at the beginning of our meetings and at the end for people to come and talk about things that are not necessarily on the legislative agenda. Now, again, that is not enough. I mean, because you're not going to catch everybody. Sure. I'm a firm believer in people being informed on their own. And again, you mentioned civics classes or government classes. And I'm not even sure that that's being emphasized and stressed these days in our education system. And I think that's a travesty because I think a lot of people are they don't know how governments work. They don't know about checks and balances and who makes the decisions and how they can get involved and how they can ask for redress. But I'm a firm believer that we need our local newspapers. We need people to read the newspapers. If you don't know what's going on, you may get a glimpse of it if you just at least read the headlines and know what's about to happen at your Monroe County government level or your city level, to know enough to know, hey, I better get there. I don't really like the way this is going. I need to be there to say, hey, wait a minute, what about us?
And I think in addition to the newspapers, which everybody has their opinion on, WFHB,
all of
CATS, and probably WTIU, WFIU that have a local news component.
Well,
those are great
IDS,
resources.
Even our
IDS has been doing a great job.
Really, I think that new media school, and they really have new programs on investigative journalism, and I'm seeing a lot of really great things happening at the university. But it's about information, and I think we live in such an information overload era where sometimes people just
and we don't know what's real. And I think that's
there's that.
That's a big thing for me too. Is that I read it and I go, "Did that really happen?" And all of a sudden, then we start to take Facebook posts on community websites as fact. Yeah, and it's not
without checking what's the source of that post. And who wrote that, and is their research solid? And and that's just learning how to be a good critical thinker when it comes to what you believe and what you don't believe, and what's fake news and what's a bunch of conspiracy theory stuff. It's scary. It's a little bit scary because, I've always thought of myself as, being an informed citizen. When I go to the polls to vote, I'd like to think that I've done enough research to know who I'm voting for and what they're going to do with respect to not just me and my own personal interests, but are they going to be good for the city? Are they going to be good for the state, the nation? So being an informed citizen, I think, is probably the number one, task of citizenship. But that requires the citizens to do a little work too, and not just sit back and expect the people that are elected to do all the legwork for them. So I'm a firm believer that the more public engagement you have, I think that's a sign of a healthy community as a whole. Again, there are a lot of ways to encourage people to get engaged. A lot of people get engaged in their own neighborhoods. You mentioned Kona. Sometimes when things are happening in your neighborhood that you don't like, that's kind of the first place where you organize and get together with your neighbors and talk about things. There are opportunities for you to volunteer and all kinds of really good, give back to the community efforts. I'm very proud of our collaborations with our city's nonprofits. We fund a lot of nonprofit activity through our Jack Hopkins Social Services grants and our CDBG funding, and that's kind of one of my wheelhouses. Because again, I think public, nonprofit, private partnerships, and even partnerships with the county are critically important.
Well, we just did a show. Was it our last show or the one before? Last show, I think, with the Community Foundation. So that's been a powerhouse of a
Tina Peterson and her leadership with the ROI. I like the Center for Rural Engagement at IU. There are just so many really neat things happening from some very dedicated, intelligent, and passionate people who are looking around and how can we make things better? How can we solve some problems?
And sometimes I just wonder if people were more aware of all the positive things that were happening, they wouldn't feel quite so desperate. And, sometimes you just feel like there's an undertone of, and just wants to throw in the towel or whatever. And I think that there is a lot of, and that's what we try to do with the show is point out all the positives so that people feel better about the community they live in. So,
and there are a lot of good things that are happening, and we try to talk about them, but sometimes when we talk about them, people say, oh, you're just cheerleading, rah-rah, is Bloomington great? And we know that Bloomington has problems. I mean, we're very well aware of the good and the bad and the ugly.
Yeah, I think we all are this year. When we're going to take a break and when we come back, we're going to talk specifically about some of the commissions that people can get involved in, what those commissions are like, and what that process is like. So stick around as we encourage you to get involved. You are at home in Bloomington.
Hi, this is Karen Rastel with Ruoff Home Mortgage. Did you know that you can often save money by purchasing your own house instead of paying rent? There are a lot of perks in owning a home of your own. So contact me today at 812-606-7653 so I can help you invest your hard-earned money for yourself instead of your landlord. Ruoff Home Mortgage is an Indiana corporation licensed by the Indiana Department of Financial Institutions. This is not an offer for extension of credit or a commitment to lend. All loans must satisfy company underwriting guidelines, equal housing lender, NMLS number 141868.
This is your Real Estate Realist. Practical advice on buying and selling real estate based on my experience closing over 800 home sales. When you put your home on the market, the anxiety starts. Waiting for showings and offers is painful, stressful, frustrating. Many times, if a home isn't selling quickly, blame goes to the realtor, and I get that. But sometimes the blame is misplaced. Here are a few things to think about. 1. What's the market doing? You can learn a lot by watching what other homes for sale in the market are doing, which homes are selling, and how do they honestly compare with yours in price and condition. The market can change quickly. What was true 4 months ago may not be true now. From interest rates to school starting, that can all have an impact on the real estate market. Did you know that home sales typically experience a major slowdown in presidential election years until after the election? All kinds of distractions in the community, state, and on a national level can impact the real estate market. Number 2, don't be frustrated if your realtor isn't showing the home. That's actually a good thing. Think about it. When your realtor shows your home, it's probably because someone called randomly from seeing the sign or the listing online. This potential buyer is calling the listing agent because they don't have their own realtor, meaning they haven't gotten serious yet about buying a home. Most serious buyers have their own realtor representing their interests, and you have a much better chance of selling your home when another realtor shows it. There's just a greater chance that the buyer is a serious buyer, pre-qualified, and ready to make an offer on the right house. Number 3, one of the biggest mysteries to me is the seller who allows horrible listing pictures for their home. You know the ones I'm talking about. Sideways pictures, pictures of the backyard taken through a window screen, fuzzy pictures. Take accountability for the sale of your home. Review your listing. Make sure the pictures are accurate and the information is correct. If you think they can be better, talk to your realtor. Ultimately, the sale of your home depends on you. To learn more about what to expect from your listing agent, listen to my Real Estate Today podcast, shows number 26 and 27. You can find them on iTunes, YouTube, and my website, www.athomeinbloomington.com.
My name is Brittany, and Deb Tomorrow is my realtor. She helped me buy my first home. I enjoyed working with Deb because she was patient, thorough, and made the experience fun. Deb should be your realtor too. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to At Home in Bloomington. I'm Realtor Deb Tomorrow, joined by Karen Rastel, our sponsor, and Susan Sandberg from Bloomington City Council. We're talking today about getting involved. Before we get back, we're going to talk about some specific commissions and boards and ways that everybody can get involved. I did want to throw back to a previous episode. I had a hard choice on this one. There were several I could have thrown back to, but then it struck me this morning. Episode 15 of At Home in Bloomington, which was the Monroe County Extension Office, which is Purdue Extension. And on that episode, we talked about one of the things the Extension Office does is the Citizens Academy. And that is, it's hosted by the Extension Office. It's been going on since like 2006, I think. I hope it continues for a long time. But it's more on the county level, but I think that that's a great way to start to understand local government. Participants learn the services that the county offices provide, and they meet with county government leaders, and they learn how they can take a more active role in government. I think they also do another Citizens Academy that has to do with law enforcement. I feel like I saw that as well. Yeah. So listen to that episode. You can get some more information on how to get involved. So that's one way, as we were talking over the break about feeling like maybe people aren't getting as much in the way of civics these days and understanding the checks and balances. And Karen, you were talking about how you were explaining to your son about, no, you weren't explaining, your husband was explaining.
I was not explaining, right.
The branches of government.
The branches of government. I mean, as a seventh grader, part of me thought he knew some of these basic things. Yeah. At least the branches of government and how many congressmen there are, things like that. Yeah. I remember learning at such an early age. And then, of course, through high school, and we talked about government class and things like that. But, their focus is kind of geared away from that, I think, right now. Yeah.
So we're going to try and give a little civics lesson today. How's that? So one of the ways that people can get involved is to serve on a multitude of boards and commissions. I'm thinking, I looked on the internet, there's at least 30 and maybe more.
Yeah, and maybe a few more in the works.
Oh, I like that. New commissions. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what it's like to serve on that commission. And I want to talk about, if someone's interested, how they could get word out.
Boards and commissions are very important in terms of like kind of a feeder system in getting people engaged in certain aspects of citizens advising the administration and the council. Actually, when I was in between from my first run, in which I was not successful to get on the city council, I accepted a post on the Bloomington Utility Service Board. because I had a background in social work, and I thought, well, no one's ever going to take me seriously as a city council member if I don't really know how the infrastructure works. Okay. So I need to get a little more experience on the sewers and the stormwater and the wastewater, and
because that certainly isn't the most romantic commission to serve on.
Your toilet's flush, But we all need clean water, and so when I had the opportunity to step on that board, I said, yes, I need to do that. And so that was a great way for me to get educated on that aspect of how you run a major city. And it's complicated and it's expensive, you know, to deal with your utilities. So that is one of our boards. It is a very, very important board. A lot of great citizens are on there with good expertise and good perspectives on how we manage, our city's infrastructure projects. So that's important. And also in 2005, I went through the Citizens Academy, which was highly educational. When you get to meet with all the different department heads, and we actually took a tour of a lot of the city's major facilities. So those are wonderful ways for people who want to learn a little bit more. But civic literacy is, I think, it's a serious issue. People just not knowing how governments work at any level, and then therefore you're kind of, when it comes to your needs not being met, you really don't know how to fix it.
Yeah, and I think you can see how people's frustration levels can get higher because when your back is against the wall and you don't understand how to take accountability and responsibility for your own situation to make it better.
Right. And in terms of the appointments to the boards and commissions, the mayor's office and the council office, we share that responsibility. The mayor usually has the majority, like there's usually either 9 members of a commission or 11, and he has like 5 and we have 4.
Okay.
So that the mayor's kind of who he wants to appoint can sometimes be the majority vote on these boards and commissions.
So my thought on that is I don't know the mayor. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know me. So how would I go about getting
It's an
on
application process.
Okay.
And it's fairly straightforward. When you go, if you can Google City of Bloomington, Indiana, make sure it's Indiana, not Illinois.
Minnesota.
And then boards and commissions. And when you click on that site, you'll see all the 30. And I've got the list here, and there are vacancies. Yeah. And there is a mechanism for you to apply. And you can apply for more than one. You can say, I'm interested in the Bloomington Arts Commission. I'm interested in the Commission on Status of Women, Commission on Aging, and then you submit your application. You can upload a resume to that if you feel that that'll help. And then when it comes time for us to review where all the vacancies are, we actually bring people in and interview them.
Oh, okay.
So it's not always that, I'm going to pick all my friends to be on this commission. Okay. I know one of the things that I look at, and when we take our job very seriously when we're interviewing citizens for these boards, we want to see diversity. We want to see equal numbers of men and women. We want to see as many underrepresented people who are wanting to step up and serve, be appointed. So we're taking a look at how do we make all these boards and commissions as representative as we possibly can so that we're not just stacking them with the people that think and look like us. Yeah. So that's been something that I think has been a very successful formula. But if you want to be considered, you've got, if you don't enter, you can't win. You've got to get on the website and you've got to apply. Okay. And it may be a while before anybody contacts you because some of these boards are pretty stable. People don't come on and off very often. But when there are vacancies, we're looking for who's on that roster. Who can we tap to bring in an interview?
So you probably hold on to some of those applications for a while. And
yeah. And then, of course, we have to call them because sometimes if it's been a while, they may not be in position to do it anymore. They may no longer be interested. But, we have a number of really interesting commissions. Again, Commission on Aging, Commission on Hispanic and Latino Affairs, Sustainability, Status of Black Males, Status of Children and Youth, Status of Women. A lot of individual groups are represented here, but we also have concerns over community accessibility, Economic Development Commission. So for any talent that any citizen may have out there, or even if it's not an expertise area, but you're just interested in this topic, environmental commission. There's a Farmers Market Advisory Council. Of course, the Jack Hopkins Social Services Funding Committee that I've already referred to, which really helps allocate dollars for our local nonprofits. Just you name it. I would advise anybody just go on the website and take a look at the range of possibilities. And I'm sure there's something for everybody on there where you have a real passion for that topic and you will want to apply and probably be taken very seriously.
I was surprised there was a vacancy on the Commission on the Status of Women.
Yeah, I don't
Somebody
know
needs
what's
to
up
step
with
up
that.
on that.
But, sometimes people move. They
Yeah.
just, but, and we do encourage longevity. We encourage please serve at least 2 years before you step off if you can. Because this being a university community, oftentimes we have students who are applying for these, but they may not be in the community long enough to really get involved in these commissions and really get invested in the work and be able to contribute. But we have younger people that apply. We have older retired people that are looking for things to do who apply. And it's a really great way to get involved at the city level. So
if you think about it, if you've got at least minimum 30 commissions, and if it's 9 to 11 people per, I mean, you're talking several hundred people. It's a way for several hundred people to get involved in the community. I noticed that as I was looking through these, there's a parking commission. It has 4 vacancies. So all y'all that are on Facebook complaining about parking meters and stuff, y'all need to shush.
The problem with that parking commission, and this is one of our newer commissions, it's had a hard time getting a foothold because they had so many restrictions on where the people could come from to serve on that. Like some had to live in some of the core neighborhoods with permits, and some had to live outside the downtown, and some had to have special. So they're changing the parameters of that so that it's not so specific. Okay. And that way it'll open it up to more people, and we'll probably have a better, more stable core that can serve on that. But those are not easy decisions about the cost of parking, where do meters go, what about all the permits. It's a big deal, as you all know.
Are they involved in that garage?
Well,
the 4th Street garage fiasco? Not fiasco, but I mean, that's a challenge, too. That
is garages, that is street parking, that is neighborhood parking, how the permits work, accessibility issues. It is not an easy lift. And, there is controversy about the parking. And we kind of talked about that before. There are some people that say, no, stop building those garages. But from my perspective, if you want people to come to your downtown from outside of your city, from other county, they've got to have a place for those cars to go. If you want them shopping in your stores and eating in your restaurants and participating in your downtown culture.
I have to say, I go downtown more now with the parking meters because I know I can get a parking spot. And I'm fine with paying $1 to go grab lunch somewhere. But when it was before the parking meters and someone would meet downtown, I would just say, I got to drive around. I have to add an extra half hour to my meeting because I got to drive around to find spots.
I can't even remember what parking was like prior to the meters. I remember when they first came out and I was like, meters?
I know. Yeah.
And I worked downtown
at
the time.
Yeah. They were very controversial, and it was a tough decision. I actually was one of 3 who voted against them because of my concerns for what it might do to people who, have limited means, who it really would be a deterrent. But in retrospect, it was a good thing for the very, very reasons you bring up. It is, you pay for however long you're there. You can even use mobile apps to re-up it if you're.
I haven't figured that part out yet.
I haven't either.
I need to, but I'm always like, I got some nickels. It's fine.
But it actually turned out to be a good thing in terms of the turnover, because that's good for commerce. You don't want people to just park their car and leave it, and or move it every 2 hours. The 2-hour shuffle or whatever most people have to do.
All the wait stuff gets
now I think it really has helped and alleviated some of those pressures.
Yeah.
It did not kill the commerce of the downtown.
No, it didn't.
No,
it didn't.
It actually probably helped.
Yeah. And if anybody wants to meet me for lunch, I'll give you $1. So you can put in the parking meter because, I can do that. What about on the county level? I know you're not, you don't have the same level of expertise, but you said you brought some information about some of the, I guess a similar setup with the commissions. Are those typically appointed by the county council?
They have an appointment process too, and an application process, the same as we do. So again, going on their website and taking a look at that. But they have things broken up in obviously county government has extended services from city. They have the jurisdiction over the courthouse. So they've got civil government, community, infrastructure, and justice. They've got their commissions divided up, but they have like a parks and recs, and similar to ours. They have a housing advisory commission, and that's one thing that we do not yet have. And when I alluded that may be a newer one coming on, that's one that we definitely need. We definitely need a citizen advisory body to help us out with some of these housing challenges and struggles.
Karen's like elbowing me.
I'm elbowing you.
But here's the problem. I don't live in the city limits, so I can't serve on a city commission, can I?
Probably for that commission, you would have to live in the city.
Right.
Some of our commissions, they have one or two spots that are not, you don't have to be a city resident, because some do pertain to inter-jurisdictional efforts. But for the most part, the city of Bloomington is going to want Bloomington residents on those commissions, whereas the county, you're open. But we need a housing commission. In fact, it's in our comprehensive plan that be something that we do. And once we put this UDO to bed and wrap that up, that's probably going to be a next commission that we'll be adding. But the county does have one. They also have a commission on the status of women. So animal rights, of course, they're dealing with a lot of justice issues too. But they have a lot of additional boards and commissions that extend to, the Emergency Management Advisory Council. The Convention Center Steering Committee. So a lot of really exciting opportunities for citizens to engage if you want to.
So what is the kind of thing, I've heard about this, the Commission on the Status of Women, and there's a commission on the, I think it's the status of Black males, and some other commissions looking at people with disabilities and that kind of thing. What are those commissions doing?
That's a good question. Typically commissions, they take on a life of their own depending on the makeup of who's on those commissions. These are not things that we drive. We as council members or the mayor. We don't dictate, here's what we want you to do and here's your statute, go do it. These citizens are the ones that come up with their own activities, their own events, whatever they want to get involved in. Like our environmental commission, they're very active. They weigh in on a lot of building and development plans to make sure that they're not being built on karst features and that they're using the proper, landscaping, greenery around things. But it is up to the councils themselves, the commissions themselves, to determine how active they want to be. The Commission on the Status of Women, of course, does the annual Women's Luncheon. They take a look at who are the emerging leaders, and so they have their own opportunities to maybe do research into things if they see something that concerns them with respect to women's rights.
So it's almost like another level of checks and balances where they're making sure that whatever their specific charge is, whether it's women or whether it's parking, that whatever changes are happening or are needed in the community, they're kind of keeping an eye on that with that specific focus.
They are kind of the eyes and ears on the ground that are representing that niche group. Then they bring information back to the council for our information. They'll oftentimes come before us and make reports as to here's what we've done, here's what we see a need to do more of, or here's where we've been successful with some of our programming. But they are not duly elected people. They are appointed by duly elected people, but they don't have any kind of legislative authority or power other than advising. They are citizen advisors.
Well, we can all use more advisors, I think, so that's good. What's the typical time commitment for someone on one of these commissions?
Most of these commissions have a meeting time. They meet every month. Now, depending on how active they are and what kind of activities, they may divide up into subcommittees and meet more frequently than that. But we don't want to ever overburden a citizen because, it's a big deal. We don't want them to feel like they've got to be meeting every week like we do and doing legislation every week like we do. But it's kind of up to them to pace themselves and get things done within the context of a once-a-month meeting, sometimes more depending on what's on their agenda.
So again, if you're interested in these, just Google. I mean, we'll put links out on our Facebook too, but you can just Google the Bloomington, Indiana city government commissions, and all that information comes up. The application's online, and I'm sure that there's a number of. It tells you can click on each commission, and I'll tell you who those citizen members are. And I'm sure any of them would be happy to chat with you about what they do for you to try to find a commission that might be interesting to you.
And I know you mentioned this application, but let me ask, do you have to be registered to vote? Is that like a requirement?
No. Now, there are certain boards and commissions that do have a partisan component to it. Mm-hmm. Like, for instance, the Utility Service Board. They had to have so many Republicans, so many Democrats, or an independent. And that has to be carefully adhered to. But I think that may be the only one where your partisanship matters, and they want to keep an equal balance to make sure it's not one party over another.
And you mentioned that students get involved as well. So 18, is there a minimum age?
I don't know if there's even a minimum age. I would have to go on and do a little more digging on that. I think we've had some pretty young participants. One of our last participants on the Jack Hopkins Social Services Committee was this brilliantly activist high school student.
Oh, nice.
So I would assume that maybe you could be younger than 18, but don't quote me on that. I'll have to go back on. Young, old, mid-range, and you don't, as I said before, you don't necessarily have to have a PhD in the expertise area for us to take a look at you and go, whoa, look at all the things they've done. They would probably be some pretty decent leaders, And
you're a great example of that coming from social services. Hey, I'm going to serve on the utility board.
Right, because that's something I don't have information about, and I need to get more. And so don't hesitate to put your hat in the ring for things. If you have a passion for it or an interest, you probably are going to be committed enough to participate and move things forward and be a good member.
Wonderful. Is there anything else that you want to share with our listeners about getting involved in local government?
Well, again, it's not easy, and you kind of probably know the 80-20 rule that in any organization you've got 20% of your people that are the worker bees, and 80% are just glad that those 20% are doing the work. And I don't expect everybody in the city of the Bloomington to be on the news every night and to keep up with everything that's going on. I think at a certain point you do trust that the people you elect have enough firepower up here and have enough dedication that, we're doing a fairly decent job in managing the city's assets and managing the city's tax revenues and doing projects that are going to benefit the community. But if you see a problem and if you don't think the city is doing a good job, why would you stand back and not stand up and talk? Or at least maybe try to get organized.
They do talk, it's just on Facebook. You need to talk where people are listening.
You need to get organized enough, and then you need to be persuasive enough to come to the decision makers and maybe share information with them that'll change their minds about something or make them think, maybe there is another way to do this. But if you're just this, what do they call it, the Monday morning quarterback, if you're just sitting back and griping in your own living room and you're not engaging with the mayor or with the council or with members of your, these commissions.
And coming up with solutions, one of the, I think, best lessons I ever learned from a former boss was that if you're going to come to me with an issue, come also with a solution. It may not be the solution that we implement, but when you do that, you end up presenting yourself in a much more positive
You're more effective.
way, and so you do get more people listening to you.
No, also, I've heard, too, someone once said to me, you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. So the people that are, bitching and moaning to themselves, they are assuming that the city or the county council knows what's happening, but what would make someone think that unless you or people that are experiencing that same issue are notifying them. So, someone once said, if you don't know what you don't know.
And getting out of your own bubble. I mean, isn't that the truth that we sometimes just hang with the people that think and believe what we believe? And you think, well, doesn't everybody think and believe this? But when you get outside of your own thought bubbles and your own walks of life, you find out, wow, they really are struggling over here. And I had no idea how hard it was for them. Yeah. But if you don't talk to them, you don't hear them, you're not going to know. And then you're not going to be able to say, we can't keep doing things the way we're doing it because it's having some negative consequences down here. Absolutely. So I welcome the opportunity to talk to people that have expertise other than what I have, because I'm learning all the time. I've been on this council since 2007, but I listen very deeply and very respectfully to people who come forward who are experts, whether it's in real real estate or development or affordable housing projects, or why? Because, they're the experts on the ground. I'm not an engineer. I'm not an architect. So if I'm not open to listen to not only the experts, but also to my community, I'm going to miss the mark.
So stand up. What is it? I should have gotten that phrase from Legally Blonde, one of my favorite movies. I think it was Legally Blonde 2. Oh, snaps. But, stand up and be heard, stand up and, she didn't use her voice. Remember, she went and she got her hair done, and she didn't like the brassy Brigitte because she didn't use her voice. Okay, everybody go watch Legally Blonde 2.
Watch the movie because I'm totally
it's Legally Blonde 2 when she was addressing Congress. But anyway, she was saying that, stand up and make your voice heard, and that's absolutely what we want to encourage people to do.
would agree.
There you go.
With her all the way.
Yes, exactly. All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and we'll be back with another episode. You are at home in Bloomington. Got a show idea? I'd love to hear it. And be sure to contact me for all your real estate needs and questions too. You can email me at deb@realrealestatetoday.com and follow me on Facebook at Deb Tomorrow Realtor. To contact Karen Rastel for all your mortgage needs, call 812-606-7653 or log on to ruoff.com and go to the Bloomington Center. Thanks to all the Bloomington people who make production of At Home in Bloomington possible. Special thanks to superstar producer Rachel D. Gregorio, digital guru Cynthia Hogan at Monster Digital Marketing for website design and hosting, and video genius Wes Lasher in the production house for engineering the show.